I sound
Speak.
normal?
Do you sound what?
Am I cutting out or anything?
You cut out a tiny bit there, but I could hear you.
Let me this low level and
Yeah, you're cutting out more now.
man, why? But
Still
anyway,
cutting out. I heard, man, I don't know why, but, and then maybe something about attenuation.
how about now?
Did not cut out there.
Are you hearing my TV?
Not currently.
Coming, Jeff?
I'm gonna try to start using, so Visual Studio Code has a formatter, it's just turned off by default. Like one of those things, I guess you may not have ever had something like this, because you may not have used any of the tools that would have it, but a lot of IDEs will automatically format stuff for you as soon as you save. So like everything looks the same consistently, no matter who types it, and it also just looks way nicer and saves a ton of time. So like if you know it's syntactically correct, you just save and it'll put it. It'll do all the indenting for you and all that other shit.
The like do we use the same version of Visual Studio for Unity, me and you?
Maybe you might use Visual Studio Community or whatever. I use Visual Studio Code. It's like
I use
the super pared down one.
yeah, I use the community one, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
It
I
seems
like.
to auto mostly format things as I go. Like I just as soon as I do
I
a
that I can set that too. Yeah.
like as soon as I do a like a curly bracket or whatever, it'll indent and do all that. I have an idea that's like, I don't know, 60% of the way there. I just I'll explain my issues with it when Jeff gets here, so I don't have to explain it twice. Nope.
I will. Right now, I'm gonna just get some data that I can, or some images that I can train on, just to get the proof of concept. So let's do that. No.
Here's another question for an idea that I had thrown away because I thought it would be too hard. But how many things do you think you could, in 3 weeks, how many images do you think you could train it on
Um,
successfully?
it depends really on how different the images are, how different the backgrounds are, that kind of thing. How well this whole thing winds up working in general. So my theory now, my plan now is to use that. I think I mentioned it in the chat at some point. Is to use a orthographic um, camera to sort of mix everything, or to sort of make sure that no matter where you're looking, the camera is always everything's always essentially as if it's the same size in the camera. So distance doesn't make things smaller away. Then if I can, I'm guessing that if I can figure out the XYZ coordinates of the the min and the max XYZ coordinates of the drawing, I could probably figure out a way to position the camera so that it'll always be facing the drawing. And then in that way, I won't the distance. If you're drawing on a slant, it won't technically matter if you're drawing on a slant because of the orthographic camera. It'll all look like it's the same distance away.
So
So
here's so would that mean the player has to play? This would be a separate camera from the player's camera, as in it would
separate
not be.
camera. Yeah, essentially what would happen is you draw something. This camera, separate camera, would be turned on, moved, take a picture, turned off. And that picture would then be essentially the byte data from that picture would be fed to our model, for our classifier.
So I guess so. If the player's drawing in first person, then is does what he's drawing on? Does it have to be? It doesn't have to be a flat surface in this.
That's the idea, theoretically. Right now, I'm just trying to get to work, period, and but
Remember,
theoretically,
for Necro Skull, we want it to be able to draw on curved surfaces and stuff. But if we're just making this
yeah,
living bear game, we could just make it draw on a flat thing if that's just easier.
yeah, we'll see. It'll probably start off on flat surfaces regardless, but in theory, because I think there are other caveats that go into drawing on curved surfaces that need to be addressed. But in theory, regardless, this should be something where you can draw on it and it doesn't matter if it's a curved surface as long as the truth here will be does it look right, essentially, which I think is a better method. And basically that means when the camera takes a picture of it, from if we can get the camera to look at the proper angle, does it look like the symbol we want it to look like? um and if it does, then we can say confidently that the classifier should be able to classify it. But this is all in general though. What I'm working on right now is just trying to get a trainer, or trying to get the images in, or get the images I need, which is what I'm doing now. The camera already, takes the picture. I have an orthographic camera set up and stuff like that. And then I want to train a classifier in PyTorch and import that into Unity, um, and see if that works. And if that works, then we're pretty much, everything else will fall into place eventually with enough work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
wait, hold on, Jeff said something. Putting groceries away. I'll be on soon. I want to go into my game design stuff, but I really don't want to have to repeat myself because there's so I'll just wait
you
for
don't
Jeff. But
you don't want to
basically,
repeat yourself, I see. Yeah.
yeah. So like, I'll just say this is right now is like to I'm trying to figure out a way to have the drawing part be more integral to the idea of harvesting, and I'm struggling to fully put that together. I do have ideas that would fully put it together, but they would be way too big for a game jam, even a 3-week game jam,
Mm.
especially where we already didn't use the first weekend. But like, yeah, that's what I have two kind of ideas. One I'm not super thrilled with, but that's more that but is more but does more go to like using the drawing thing for relating it to harvesting something. And the other one doesn't fit as well with the theme, but is probably just a better idea, I just like it better. But yeah, I'm still thinking.
Yeah, I'd also, you could probably convince me to, I could be convinced to work on something that is not the drawing thing. It's just, I'm getting closer to times where I'll need to apply to places, and I'd like to have
Yeah,
unique
no, that's fine.
things.
I'm already shoehorning in. Like, I'm already saying it's gonna be. I want it to be a 3D game because I want to be able to repurpose the environments I make in it for my other game, and so whatever. Like, who cares? It's
I want to
just
make things that I can show off and be like, hey, people don't normally, like, you see things online all the time, right? People don't normally make an image classifier though, uh, and put it in Unity. So it would show off a skill set. So
yeah.
hopefully,
I'm already shoehorning my stuff in, so I don't care if you want to shoehorn your stuff in. We'll figure out a way to make it work.
let's just do 10 squares, 10 circles, 10 triangles. But the squares and the circles will be the ones that get mixed up more frequently. But we'll
I'm
see.
also wondering if this will be like I actually would think the thing me and Jeff talked about before is like, should we be harvesting plants or should we repurpose the necromancer harvesting dead bodies, harvesting growing zombies basically idea.
Mhm.
And you know if it's a drawing plants thing, plants there are some plants that look pretty I wonder if it would be easier to draw different different zombies or different plants. Like depending on the plants we chose, they could look
Yeah.
quite different. Like if we did a pumpkin and a carrot or something would be pretty different. But the zombies might actually be harder because like if you're unless they unless we design them so their models so differently silhouette wise that it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll leave that to Jeff to decide. He's the one that would be drawing it all. Alright, I got all the stuff drawn now. I'll have to figure out how to package these in a way that PyTorch can read. Probably work on this mostly tomorrow, but I did want to step in here to see what we were doing. I also wonder if like there's some neat things I think that can be done with this like classification. If we want, we can make these things look nicer by like, okay, you draw a circle and then it recognizes a circle and then replaces your drawing with a idealized version of a circle, with some magic um prettiness added to it. If we could do that if we want. You could also have things where like theoretically I believe I could make it so that you capture only the newest, like only the newest line in the image. So I can make it so that you could draw, like, let's say you draw a circle as a base and then you draw a triangle on top of that circle somewhere, and then because the classifier will only have the picture of the circle and the triangle, like for lack of a better phrase, the ink, it'll still be able to classify them separately as a circle and a triangle. And then we have logic in the background that says, okay, when two drawn objects that are recognized as circle and triangle are stacked on top of each other, they do something different. Or, now you have like these different or maybe a better way of doing it would be like, okay, what if we have a triangle and then we try to make it so that, and then you can draw a circle on each corner of the triangle and then place something in each of those circles and then that activates something, that does sort of like like some sort of alchemy to it, to the ingredients,
Yeah, that fits a little bit into the one idea that I like a little better. It like the I thought of a thing where like I won't go into the whole thing, but basically I thought of a thing where it's like, okay, what if we mix the aesthetics of garden and zombie, and no matter what you do, and you're just drawing the you're drawing like whatever, a tomato, a carrot, whatever in this position, and then a zombie with that vegetable for a head pops in. And I thought like, what if it was like, what was that game that came out, with the like Muppet like creatures where they were eating things and their body parts were turning into them?
Oh, bug snacks.
Bug Snacks. What if what if it was like Bug Snacks except you're making your zombie out of vegetables?
That could be funny. It is very evocative of bug snacks if you're like specifically food body parts.
Or like you could do like a stick figure, right? And then you could just look at the positions of what is drawn, in the each hand, each foot, and the head, or something like that, whatever.
Mm.
And those are all different things. That I thought that might be a cool thing for like, you're making all these zombies and then you're sending them off to attack something. We wouldn't even have to show the attacking part. They just leave and you get a report about how they did based on the way you built them or whatever. But
Mhm.
even that would be a lot, I think. I don't know. Uh, I'll be back in 1 second, actually.
Hello. I think
How's it
Chris
going?
said be right back. I'm not sure if he's here yet. Back yet.
Who is Johnny Heartlamp?
That's Chris's other Discord names that he can jump in Discord without leaving Discord on his main computer. That way he can. I think the idea is basically like he can still stream Dave's stuff from his computer, but also jump in on his couch. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, but if Chris comes back, just tell him that I can still hear you guys. I just won't be able to talk.
I just was making food.
If you want to start explaining, Chris, I can still hear you. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom.
All right, so I have two ideas. I'm kind of trying to figure. I'm still not all the way there though on either of them, or I have a bunch of kind of ideas floating around. But like, I guess if this is gonna be like a farming game where you're using magic to grow magic plants, essentially, I had kind of two ideas. The first one would be so working it into the harvest theme is the thing I'm still kind of struggling with. So like the with the first idea was just like it's it, like it's a first person game. You have a farm of, and yeah, it can be the whatever, the vegetable or the graveyard aesthetic, necromancer thing, doesn't matter. But basically, like it's basically like a combination, like almost first person shooter game, except that you're drawing symbols in the air or like over enemy, like you draw like an X over an enemy to kill them, blah blah blah. Then you're harvesting the dead enemies, and then you can do something with them, whatever. If it was the necromancer thing, I thought maybe you could raise them up and it would be like a combination FPS and Pikmin. The problems with that idea are, even though that I feel like that fits more with the harvest theme, in that you're gathering something, using it as planting it, using it as a resource, and then gaining stuff from it. It would be a lot to do, I think, for this kind of game jam. Even though we have 3 weeks. The other idea was like the one that I liked a little better is like it's just set on a farm. There's some sort of pressure, like maybe a time pressure, or something like that, to harvest a certain amount of things. And you start out and you have just your sort of like magic cookbook, and the magic cookbook would be almost like the manual in Tunic, right? It would have it would, the beginning pages would have just a bunch of symbols that you could try drawing anywhere and just see what happens, and maybe those would make the first few vegetables grow. And then as you in order to get like higher level stuff, basically you have to just experiment around with all the different symbols and drawing them, drawing several, and seeing what type of plant comes out and whatever. And it's more of a puzzle game, solving the understanding the symbols in the magic cookbook. Yeah, those were my two main ideas for the drawing thing. I still am I like the second idea better. I think it's more doable and like integrates the drawing thing better without having to have a whole separate other thing like the FPS part in the first idea. But the thing I feel like it's missing is what do you like? Yeah, there's no like gathering section. It doesn't fit as well with harvesting because like you're not, you're not gathering seeds or anything. I would, if it had that part, um, and also the like the what you're getting out of like planting the things like as a resource is not really like what like great, you have all these plants, what are they for? Is it just like you have to get this many pumpkins by sundown or whatever? That
Well,
is
that
a
would be like kind of sorry to interrupt, but remember I was saying like you could have reagents, like that would be that solution. So you have to build these or magic up these base plants that don't have any reagent requirements, and then you can make a more advanced plants by using pieces of the old plants to, maybe one is made into a powder which has to be the ink, maybe another is made into, is just has to be placed on each corner of the triangle.
that's a good idea. Everything that you're using, you start out with a bunch of reagents which are theoretically limitless, right? Because if you can fuck up, you have to,
Yeah.
and base reagents, you cook some, you cast a spell, something comes out, and then you can sort of like sacrifice it, and get a different set of new higher level reagents to build a different thing, right?
Yeah, it's something like that.
So maybe that works better with the necromancer aesthetic than like you're you've got a certain amount of dead bodies and then you're just continually reanimating them, or maybe I don't know. I don't. It would be better just to do plants because then we don't have to do any rigging whatsoever, or like animations for anything.
Yeah, that is very time consuming.
Yes.
Yeah. We can I mean, a lot of the base stuff we can figure out the final aesthetic later too. Like the drawing stuff. Once I'm gonna be. I already can fill a couple of days with what I want to do with it. Um, so that it can adapt as we.
Should you have to like? Should there be survival game mechanics where it's like, okay, I need to eat this much for the during the day, or maybe like, so that so that there's a choice to make when you grow the thing, whatever you're growing,
You want to eat it or save it for
yeah,
later?
or sacrifice it.
For the Ludum Dare, I think it would be more fun to just have it be purely puzzle and exploration. Like you are without any survival stuff. If we ever wanted to continue it, then we could, add that stuff in if we decided that that would help the loop. But I think for the purposes of something that someone's gonna spend 5 to 10 minutes playing, we
Or
try to
well,
make it as fun as possible
it
to.
doesn't have to be. That's true. It doesn't have to be a hunger meter. It doesn't have to be a penalty. What if it's a bonus? What if you
Yeah,
can?
well, yeah.
What if you can sacrifice it and get new reagents, or like, up your walk speed by 10% or whatever, so tomorrow you can
Mhm.
run around and do more stuff or whatever it is. I think
Yeah.
just having a choice between what you're keeping and what you're reusing as fertilizer is interesting. Otherwise, it's
Mhm.
just a puzzle game, which is fine. I'm fine with just puzzle games. Most of my Little Dairy games have been just puzzle games, but like I always kind of wanted to do an actual traditional farming. You're putting stuff in the ground and getting resources out type thing, and I think that lends itself better to that.
Mm. There should be like a thing where you have to in the very beginning. I don't like. I like to try to do games without combat, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have dangerous enemies or like the wildlife, dangerous wildlife. It'd be neat if in the beginning your first goal is to like you draw this big circle and then you have to plant like a bunch of plants around it to almost conceal yourself from the wildlife around, like a protective
It could
area.
be just like one sort of, or a few maybe like sort of pest type enemies like birds or moles or something like that that you have to
Yeah.
protect things from.
Or maybe the more logical programming version of that would be like, oh, I can draw this symbol here and then plant a specific plant there, add these reagents, and then it will grow a plant that will connect to any other plant, within this distance, and creates a force, like a protective field that wildlife can't cross or something like that.
Yeah,
You can
Hmm.
also
yeah,
use
that
that for farming animals, like a animal husbandry kind of thing too, if we wanted to go that route.
um
Point being is the drawing mechanic is most fun as a with these there you see a lot of magic in games, but you don't see a lot of like ritualistic magic like with recipes and combining and stuff like that, unless it's like a potionomics kind of game. Um,
yeah.
but drawing innately under a time, the drawing under a or another. This isn't the point, but the another thing to keep in mind is that drawing under a time frame isn't fun, especially when
Yeah.
you're drawing with a mouse. So the drawing should never be time sensitive. It should be more about
What's
getting the right symbol and getting the right combination of symbols.
Yeah,
Um,
I do think it should be a puzzle game first, and the exploration is in the like what does
Figuring out
y-
what things do.
yeah what comes out when I do this.
Yeah. And later on down the line, if we wanted to make it more like applicable to the how the player actually plays with and moves with the world, we could do something like, oh, you can draw once you figure out this symbol, you can draw the symbol of speed on your boots, and it will make you move faster. Um, yeah, something like that, like or like something like, oh, the symbol of speed or time or whatever, both speeds up the growth rate of a plant and also speeds up your walking speed if you put it on your boots.
Yeah, yeah. Jeff, do you think you could do some crows or something? Like, because there's not a lot of. I've run into this issue before of like, Mixamo doesn't have like a animal rigging section, so like most of the time I've looked into doing birds, or sometimes there's like four-legged animal stuff, and there's like snake and worm stuff, but there's like unless you buy a bird model that sometimes come with different animations, and there is a free bird model actually on the Unity Asset Store, so I could just use that. But if you wanted to take a shot at modeling and rigging a bird, it might not be
Yeah,
as
I could
bad
do that.
as modeling and rigging a person, and those could be the pests that
Mhm.
are maybe your first challenge, and you have to sort of draw this circle to keep them away from your crops or whatever.
Well, I think we have or like I know what I'm gonna work on. I gotta get this image classifier actually in and working because that's the crux of the game. Um, but
Yeah, let me
from
know how
everything I've been reading, it should work.
I can start making I could start making the farm and stuff, and or what I'll do actually is I'm trying to think. I guess I'll start a new Unity project. I'll get the first person camera and movement and uh, start working on I'll bring a bunch of those assets that we got from that I got from over Christmas in. So you don't have to make everything either, Jeff. You could if you wanted to, Jeff. Also, I could just give you my Unity stuff and you could log in under my account and then you would have all that stuff, and then you could just make the environment itself and not do the modeling and stuff, like just place everything. If that sounds funner.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
See
it's
what I
up to
can
you. If
do.
you'd rather model, if you'd rather model, or
I'll try modeling some stuff first. I
okay,
have been meaning to try and do that again.
right on. Then I will start. I'll do the first person camera and the like start working on just like a base environment and maybe like a base. Plant this and it starts a timer and turns into another thing. See if I could do that tomorrow.
All right. Well, I'll probably dig into this during the workday tomorrow while Sammy's working, and so I can also be working on something productive at the same time. I found what I need here, or have all the images that I need. Or that for an initial test I'll just do. I just drew some triangles, circles, and squares in Unity and exported them into images. So we will. I'll try to train a classifier on those images and then import that classifier into Unity and see if I can get it to work.
Right on. Sounds
Alright.
good.
Cool.
Right.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Later.
Oh well.